Good afternoon. I hope you can all hear me, and welcome to this very interesting session. Today we shall have
David, can we hear you?
I'm sorry about that. I believe I lost.
Amajiga simanyi kyegabadde gapi eno loosi gye nkoze ŋŋenda baaluka
I think, David, Godfrey, you're having issues of connectivity that side. I don't know what's happening. We can't hear you at all. Pardon?
They're in the lab?
Yeah, they're in the lab.
Okay.
We apologize for the technical challenges that we are having. Unfortunately, it seems like we may need to just give this about 15 minutes, and we shall restart the call the webinar so we can solve the technical challenges that we are having. Can we please give this 15 minutes and we shall reconvene this discussion? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We can start.
yokuba akasente tineesere kandi mwavu kale mwavu ndiko neesere bamba sere kyoddamu awo nekibula tayoliba.
Great, thank you very much, and sorry about that. As you can tell, I've had to find a very quick way to get a new spot at the university. And welcome back to this conversation. We have a very interesting chat today, which basically brings together academia and the private sector. And we're going to be discussing one of the most interesting sectors out there, which is the tourism sector. As you all know, tourism has been one of the most hard-hit sectors from the COVID pandemic. Thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of jobs are on the line. Many livelihoods are on the line. And there's so much being done today in terms of interventions to try and restart tourism. And today we'll be listening to a presentation from a very interesting researcher, and we'll have feedback both from the private sector, academia, and the government on the findings from this research paper. However, before we do that, we are in a very interesting place. We are at the Makerere University, and before we start and take this any further, it's important to have our host welcome us, and then we shall take this discussion further. I'd like to invite Mr. Godfrey Akileng, the Dean of the School of Business, to do a quick introduction, and then we will start our session in earnest. Mr. Akileng, please.
Thank you very much, David. The Managing Director of Triskio, the moderator tonight. Thank you very much, and colleagues, you're most welcome to Makerere University. I'm the Dean School of Business. I would like, on behalf of Makerere University community and also on behalf of the School of Business, to thank you very, very much for sparing your time to join us in this very important webinar. This webinar, like our colleague, as the moderator has already put it, is looking at the tourist mindset, tourist attractions on social media marketing and strategies to boost domestic tourism. As you might realize, it's in the interest of Makerere University, and it's in our strategic plan to bridge the gap between academia and the industry actors. And coming together tonight in the form of a webinar is a very important thing for us as Makerere University. Many times we produce results from research, and sometimes we discuss them ourselves as academia. But this time, bringing together the industry actors and participating and sharing with us our findings and facts of studies that we have come up with is a very important thing. Tonight, we are very happy as a university to receive Professor Mohammed Ismail Hossan, all the way from University of Dhaka. You're most welcome. We also have in the house the government representative, Assistant Commissioner Tourism, Minister of Tourism, Mr. Vivian Diazi, you're most welcome. Those are our panelists, and Mrs. Jackie Namara Rukare, the consultant in Guru Consultants Limited, you're most welcome. Mr. Amos Wekesa, the CEO of Great Lakes Safaris, you're most welcome. We also have Ms. Mugabe Claire, the marketing manager, Uganda Tourism Board, you're most welcome. And our own Dr. Deus Muwezi, lecturer of Makerere University, who is also a panelist, you're most welcome. Together with David William, our researcher from the school, and supported by Sarah Bimbona, you're all most welcome. There are also colleagues, I've seen colleagues from Zambia who are here, you're most welcome. I've also seen a colleague all the way from Australia who is participating in this webinar, you're most welcome. I've seen other government representatives, chief administrative officers who are here. I've seen some other commissioners and assistant commissioners in government departments who are here. I've also seen members of Makerere University community, staff, students, alumni, and everyone who is concerned with this particular sector. You are most welcome. Like the moderators put it, in the recent times, this particular sector has had hit because of the pandemic. I am very sure that the ideas that we are going to come up with, the suggestions, the policy recommendations that we are going to make tonight are going to feed into the growth of this particular sector. The question that we would like to address is, how do we develop, how do we grow the tourism sector domestically? How do we grow the domestic tourism in this country? David, thank you very much. In the middle of our discussions, but most likely I will also be making a contribution here and there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akileng. Like I said, this is, sorry, Dr. Akileng. I've been told how to put this right. Yes. So, like I said, today's discussion is very interesting. On one part, we have seen very many initiatives being run by government. I must commend Uganda Tourism Board with the initiatives they're running, especially in the digital space. Yesterday, we saw the launch, a few weeks ago, we saw the launch of the Take on the Power campaign. And the idea here is to drive the domestic market to go out and experience Uganda the way that Uganda actually is. Of course, this raises very many questions, from what products are being packaged for the Ugandan market to how much do we know about the mindsets of the Ugandan tourist. Our first panelist, our first presentation today is from a researcher, and his name is Mr. Mutebi William. William is a student, an MBA student at Makerere University, but more interestingly, William has been in the tourism space for the last 12 years. He's been an active tour operator. He understands the sector. And I think it's very interesting when we see somebody who is from the sector go out to try and do research and better understand what's happening in the tourism sector. What's very interesting as well today, for the first time, I know it's a Zoom call, we however are sharing the same camera and podium. So I'd like to invite Mr. William Mugabe to take us through his research around social media marketing and domestic tourism performance in Uganda. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I greet you and thank you so much, moderator, for this chance to present my findings on the research I did about social media marketing and domestic tourism performance in Uganda. My name is William, like he stated, and I'm a researcher from Mugabe University, and I'm also an industrial player since 2010. My research was basically to look at the impact of social media marketing on domestic tourism performance, and just in a few seconds, I will be sharing my slides so we can go together on the same pace. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to delve into my presentation on social media marketing. And as you can see on your screens, the first page represents the current discussion of social media and domestic tourism marketing. The children you see are actually a picture representing the social media channels used to market domestic tourism and tourism in general. Briefly on the industrial overview. Sorry.
We have technical issues as well. Only the actual slides of the presentation. Please allow us a few seconds to fix that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with our presentation. Like I said, my name is William, and I'm a researcher from Mugabe University. I'm also an industrial player in tourism for 10 years now. Industrial tourism, the industrial overview of the tourism industry is that in 2019, tourism contributed to around 10.3 GDP, the global GDP, and then in 2018, it was 10.4% of the global GDP. And the total tourism employment contributes to around 10%. And then tourism is also responsible for 10 jobs, 1 in 10 jobs globally. The domestic tourism performance, however, is the lead driver of the tourism industry and stands at 73% as per the statistics on the total travel and tourism spending. In Uganda, however, domestic tourism arrivals are also not very, very good. Looking at the arrivals for 2016, for example, whereas the industry, the tour operator business grew by 23%, the industry, the tourism arrivals for domestic tourism were, the domestic tourism spending was very, very low at 1.1%. And then international tourism was high at 98.9%. So in other words, it means that we have a very big gap in harnessing the relationship, the gap between domestic tourism and international tourism. And according to UTB, domestic tourism is actually dominated by students. The COVID effect, however, according to the current norm of COVID-19, the international tourism arrivals are anticipated to fall by around 80% in 2020, December, if nothing is happening in terms of discovery of a vaccine or at least a treatment for COVID-19. According to United Nations World Organization 2020, recovery is going to be faster in countries where domestic tourism is strongly established, especially the OECD country and member states, the Organization of Economic Cooperation for Development, that is basically in Europe and the Americas. The fundamental challenge, however, that we have here is that the message in Uganda is mainly crafted to attract the foreign tourist, and therefore the local tourist is not given attention for at the moment. And then for domestic tourism marketing, a lot of campaigns have been run by the government and through UTB, which is basically responsible for marketing of the industry of tourism for Uganda. But the impact has not been so much felt. And we need to realize what exactly happened or what is happening that we don't see a corresponding increase in domestic tourism performance, whereas there are serious campaigns being put forward by the industrial players and especially the private sector and the industry. The COVID-19 effect has curtailed international travel, and it has curtailed international travel, and there's a gross uncertainty between both tour operators and the industry and the tourists themselves. However, domestic tourism is looked up to revamp the industry, according to UNWTO 2020. Now we have social media marketing, which can come in to help on this situation. And accordingly, it plays a significant role in many aspects of tourism. For example, it is very much useful in information search and decision-making process by the customers. In fact, 60% of mobile, in Uganda, we have a 60% mobile connection rate, with more than half of the mobile users connected on social media apps. We carried out a study with Dr. Sarah Wimbona as my supervisor, and we had the following objectives. The first objective was to investigate the relationship between social media marketing strategy and domestic tourism performance. And the second objective was to examine the mediating effect on tourism supply chain in the relationship between social media marketing and domestic tourism performance. And the third one was to examine the mediating effect of attractions on the relationship between social media marketing and domestic tourism performance in Uganda. And the methodology was adopted. The methodology and the study population constituted only those members that were active, were registered with Auto and active members of Auto for 3 consecutive years. Our respondents were mainly people in the marketing departments. The study design was cross-sectional because of its descriptive potential. And then the approach was quantitative. Our findings are that 73% of tourism firms in Uganda are actively using social media. And that there is a direct relationship between social media marketing and domestic tourism performance in Uganda, looking at this image in the screens. Looking at the findings, we looked at whether there's a mediating effect between social media marketing and domestic tourism performance, and looked at 2 variables. The first variable was tourism supply chain as a mediating factor, and then the second variable was tourism resources. Now, looking at the relationship between social media and domestic tourism performance, introducing the value of trade supply chain, it gives us the result of knowing that components of tourism supply chain have no significant mediating effect on social media marketing. In other words, Uganda's social media domestic tourism performance is not necessarily is not failing to perform only just because of the mediating effect of trade supply chain. It is actually not performing because of other factors that we need to actually examine in this study. The same thing with social media marketing and then introducing tourism resources as a mediating effect to mediate domestic tourism performance. There was also no significant mediating effect in social media marketing and domestic tourism performance. In other words, to get good domestic tourism performance, you don't need to introduce tourism supply chain as a factor. It is possible that you can have domestic tourism performance directly marketing with social media without necessarily going through the questions of tourism supply chain and tourism resources. In other words, Uganda has the resources we need, and we have also their supply chain. The people are willing to supply, but tourism performance is still low. The implication here is that Uganda is not devoid of attractions. In fact, Uganda has a lot of attractions that can be used can be used to attract local tourists. But the challenge lies in the fact that Ugandans are not aware of what is available in the market and what they can go and explore in their country. And therefore, that's the reason why you see many of Ugandans are actually going outside their country, sometimes to consume the same product that is being that is already available in their own country. The implication here is that also that we need to realign the marketing content in terms of how we attract our people to visit our country. For example, if you have been marketing your packages to attract the international tourists, we need to rethink on the marketing message that we send out there, because currently the industry is in its knees, and the only relief that we can look at and basically rely on is to introduce the new norm of marketing, where we channel our funnels towards the local market. And the good news is that there's social media, and this is marketers' hope. The marketers are going to use social media, basing on the statistics that Uganda's social media penetration is at a quarter of the mobile phone users are actually using social media as a marketing tool. So we can use it to attract the local market. The private sector, private travel drive is actually upcoming, and therefore the implication is that those who have been marketing their packages to maybe groups or large numbers of people as a form of their businesses, it is time now to rethink how you actually market to your clients, because the clients now, the new niche is coming, and because of safety issues and concerns of social distancing, there's going to be a much need for tour operators and other industry players to market their products and to redesign their products to attract a few numbers, and mainly look at people. The new demands are going to be in line with self-drive, self-caterings, and then introduction of new packages will need to be the ones that cater for a few numbers, and therefore packages are mainly going to be the hot selling packages are going to be the ones that attract either couples, families, and self-drive clients. Performance, there's going to be a preference for e-business excursions. E-business excursions are going to be preferred because of the need for social safety. In other words, people are not going to be exactly now the same way they were in the past before COVID, because of the fact that there's a need for social distancing. And so transactions that are e-based, electronic marketing, electronic check-in, and electronic service delivery is going to be much, much preferred. The new demand for immunity boosting services like food and excursions is going to be very, very much needed, because there's a sounding move by the World Health Organization to encourage people to boost their immunity. And therefore, if you are a tour operator and you are planning to get back on your feet running, you need to think about packages that boost immunity of your clients, and therefore encourage your staff to always look at packaging the same product. There's going to be a strong need for package flexibility because people are very much uncertain about their travel, much as they want to travel, and therefore there is need by clients for tour operators to encourage promotion of packages that are flexible for them, so they can cancel anytime they want to cancel. Short-term packages are going to be demanded because they ensure much safety and they are cost-effective. Looking at the fact that people have not been working, but they still need to travel. So there's need to look at packages that are cost-friendly, but also packages that are short but exciting for tourists in Uganda. Now, the new marketing environment dictates a need to optimize social media marketing and enhance and in adherence of COVID-19 guidelines for the survival of the industry. In conclusion, clearly the growing influence of the tourism sector as an economic powerhouse and its potential as a tool for development are irrefutable, and the growing use of social media in promotion of new brands and rejuvenation of findings of fading images. Social media is going to be much needed for rejuvenation of fading images and the retrieval of the tourism industry that is now on its knees. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. William Mutebi. I believe I got that right. As we stop that right now, great. It's a very interesting paper, honestly. I think the findings as well, this is some of these things we actually have had before and we know, but it's great when research actually proves some of the statements that we've had in the past. One of the things I liked so much about his findings was the fact that Uganda is not devoid of attractions. And this is a fact that we keep hearing over and over again. Uganda is the pearl of Africa. Uganda is gifted by nature. Uganda has so much in terms of tourism potential, but the challenges around marketing and product development and social media and all these things that are holding our economy or our tourism sector from achieving that great potential that we seem to be seeing consistently. And also the drive towards a larger, stronger focus on domestic tourism as well is very impressive. Our next presenter, and it's so interesting because I did cheat on this one because yesterday I had a chance to read through this research paper. And Dr. Mohammed Ismail Hussein and Arnold Japutra, two researchers, put together a paper on tourists' mindsets and choice of adventurous holiday activities. And when I read this paper yesterday, what I found very interesting was how, as you go out to, of course, build and market your tourism products, there's a big question about relevance, but relevance starts from the customer. In marketing, the one thing we keep hearing a lot is fall in love with your customer and build products that are relevant, but also be able to, of course, use the right channels to reach them, but also know what they want. And that's very interesting as you build a product, especially for the domestic market. I'm not sure if it's Dr. or Mr. I need to get this right. Mohammed Ismail Hussein, please tell us a bit about tourist mindsets and the choice of adventurous holiday activities. Thank you very much. The floor is yours. I will unmute you just now. Just a minute. Yes, I believe you're unmuted now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. This is Mohammed Ismail Hussein. Thanks for having me here. You talked about the paper. This is part of a very big project that we are basically having, me and Arnold. And this particular publication is basically a small section of the project that we had, and it was a marketing. It was a sort of research letter. Basically, in this particular paper, we looked at how mindsets are actually impacting the choice of tourism activities. And it's not focusing on each and every single type of tourism activities, rather how mindsets are actually impacting on the choice of adventurous tourism activities. Now, I don't know much about Uganda's tourism attractions, but I'm sure that you have lots of these adventurous type of tourism activities. So probably the findings of my research can actually give you some directions regarding how to market your adventurous type of tourism activities, not for so that entire lot of the tourism activities. Do you want me to share my screen, or will it be better? Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so no, like we know our personal values basically impact our decisions, but on top of our personal values, our mindsets primarily govern the behavioral manifestations. Whatever behavioral manifestations that we are exhibiting, our mindsets are basically driving those behavioral manifestations. And as a customer or as an organization, whichever way we behave, our individual mindset or the mindset that we have as an organization basically impacts our behavior. And same goes for the tourist behavior. Tourist is also a consumer. And if we cannot understand the mindset of the tourist, then definitely we will not be able to properly market our products. So that's why understanding tourism mindset is very important for the development of tourism. Unfortunately, only 2 studies so far that basically looked at, as far as my browsing goes, like only 2 studies so far. One of the studies conducted by my supervisor, Opiel, probably Sarah know him very well. He conducted a study on mindset, and my co-author, he conducted another study. But from their studies, our study is a bit different. Like those 2 studies, they were not basically concentrated on adventure tourism. And on top of that, the study conducted by Japutro, it was basically a cross-sectional survey. So they didn't look at the causal relationship. So in our paper, we basically looked at, we tried to causally investigate whether mindsets really impact the choice of tourism activities. And if it impacts, then what type of mindset is basically impacting tourist adventurous choice of tourism activities. Now, from literature, we find that there are basically 2 types of mindset, and that's very predominant. One is fixed mindset, another one is growth mindset. The fixed mindset people, they are more structured. They don't want to explore too much. They don't want to take risks. Whereas the growth mindset people, they are always promotion focused. They try to explore new things, even if it is risky. The risk means more challenge, so they want to embrace challenge. So we thought that these 2 types of mindsets, definitely their mindsets are different, and these mindsets are basically govern our efforts as well as goals that we want to pursue. So definitely it will impact the choice of tourism activities, in particular the adventurous tourism activities, differently. So we had a hypothesis. So we hypothesized that I didn't present that due to that time limitation here. So we thought that the growth-oriented mindset, that is the people, those who have growth-oriented mindset, those who always want to explore new things, embrace challenge, so they will be more accepting towards going for more adventurous type of tourism activities compared to the fixed mindset people that doesn't want to take that much risk. They focus more on performance and prevention. So that was basically the hypothesis of our study. And before conducting the main study, we conducted a pretest. As I said earlier, it was a causal study. It was a causal. Our purpose was to explore the causal relationship. So we had to go for experiments, and we used a scenario-based experiment. And in our pretest, we had 85 participants, and these participants were from the postgraduate students of one of our business schools. And we had 4 conditions, that is mindset, fixed and growth mindset, and we had 2 types of adventurous, several types of adventurous activities, and respondents had to differentiate between these high and low adventurous activities. We basically manipulated mindset as well as adventurousness. And I can't actually go for the main details. The results of the pretest confirm our predictions. Like the way we thought, like yes, the growth mindset people will prefer more adventurous activities, whereas the fixed mindset people, they will not differentiate that much between high and low adventurous activities, and we found that evidence. So as we have that confirmation from the pre-study, so we conducted the main study, and here we had 112 respondents, and these are taken from the executive. These respondents are taken from the executive program that we had in our university. And these respondents, almost 95% of the respondents have a very good familiarity with the tourism product, and they traveled at least twice in the last 12 months. So the participants were very familiar with the product. So the experimental design was same as the pretest. The findings that we have, it's like the manipulation checks were successful. That is the way we intended to manipulate the mindset as well as adventurousness. It works. And what we find that in our result, as you can actually see, mindset in particular, if you look at the figure, you can clearly see the growth mindset people, they do differentiate between high and low adventurous activities quite a lot, and they are more accepting towards more adventurous activities. Whereas if you look at the fixed mindset people, the difference between choosing low and high adventurous activities is not that much. This is a very novel finding compared to tourism. Like in tourism, we haven't yet got these findings so far. So in terms of implications, this study is one of the, I should say, is the first study that basically establish mindset as a causal driver of tourism product choice. And we are not actually discarding the impact of belief and the value system of individuals, but compared to belief and value system, that basically comes into play when people are in a conflict situation, whereas mindset is basically omnipresent. So this is inbuilt. So, and this basically present in each and every single decision that we are basically making. This study established that. We basically complemented. We are not actually discarding the contribution of beliefs and value system. What we are proposing, or what we have established through these findings, mindset can be an alternative driver. So we can actually focus more on mindset as well, and considering its omnipresence, it would be a more reasonable thing to do. Now, apart from these theoretical contributions, practically that can help this particular finding, and more exploration of that will basically help a lot the tourism market, because the offering mix that we will develop, if we have the mindset, the differences of mindset, people's mindset, then it will help us a lot when we design our product mix. And the destination managers, as far as Uganda is concerned, because we have got lots of these different types of destinations. So if you can actually tap the type of mindset that people have, and after tapping or after knowing that specific mindset, if you offer that particular type of particular type of destination choice or packages, that basically that is more aligned with their mindset. Like if he or she is a growth-oriented individual, growth mindset individual, then you can actually offer him more challenging type of, more exploratory type of tourism attractions, like bungee jumping. I don't know whether it is possible, jungle trekking, all these different types of highly adventurous activities. So that will basically attract him or her more to go for those activities. That's it. But like this is one of the very small study conducted in a niche context. It has got lots of opportunities to explore further because the tourism is a very big field. So certainly we are working towards that. Because as I said earlier, this is part of a very big project. Thank you very much for listening to me. I guess I'm right on time, 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a very interesting presentation because I for one, really believe that by understanding the tourist persona and how they think, it would greatly help you in how you build products that are relevant to them as customers. And I think as we start to build domestic tourism offerings, especially in Uganda, where we had many of the operators did not, for a long time, did not focus much on the domestic market, it will be very interesting to understand how the customers think. Again, thank you very much for making time, and we hope that DACA is okay, and we appreciate you making time. Going forward, we'd like to get some feedback. We have a very distinguished panel. The Dean took some time to introduce some of the panelists. I'll quickly run through it again. On the panel, we are privileged to have Dr. Deus Kemuwezi, who is a lecturer at Makerere University and also the head of the Makerere University Staff Association, I believe it is called. We also have Mrs. Jackie Namara. Jackie is a marketing executive. She has worked over 20 years experience across numerous corporate bodies. She's part of the Marketers Association and also supports social media consultancies with many organizations. We also have Mr. Amos Wekesa. Mr. Amos Wekesa is the CEO of Great Lakes Safaris and Uganda Lodges, very known personality in the tourism space. And I think, like I said before, what's great about this conversation is that it actually is bringing together academia and business. And we would probably like to see how best can this conversation guide us as we try to support recovery. We also have Ms. Claire Mugabe, who is the marketing manager at Uganda Tourism Board. And Claire, you're doing very many great things. The Tourism Board, we are seeing, the campaigns that are running. We have been following actively the sessions we've had over the last few days with the workshops about domestic tourism. And we think that, of course, getting academia more involved is a great way to also support this. And lastly, we also have the government in the house, Mr. Vivian Liazi, who is the Commissioner for Tourism at the Ministry of Tourism in Uganda. So I would like to quickly ask the panelists to give quick feedback on the two presentations. A quick reminder, the first presentation was about social media marketing and domestic tourism performance, and the next was about tourism mindsets. Each of the panelists has 5 minutes to do a quick introductory feedback on these two presentations, and then we'll ask a few questions and open it up to the rest of the audience to ask any more questions. So I'd like to start with Mr. Vivian Liazi. If you have any feedback on the two presentations, we'd like to invite you to quickly share that with us. Just a minute, I need to be able to allow you to unmute your microphone. Okay, that should be possible for you to unmute. Let me ask tech to come and support this process. Just a minute.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm now loud and audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I think it was a very interesting discussion. And thanks to William for his elaborate research, and also Mohammed for giving us those insights on the tourism mindset. True domestic tourism is now our main focus and thrust in terms of capturing the market, largely because of the COVID pandemic that has affected us, but also on the realization that the key base of any tourism market, the domestic, should take on a larger component. And as you rightly said, the domestic market has not been that well involved or exposed in as far as tourism is concerned. Now, one of the issues I want to begin with is the definitional challenge of what domestic tourism actually constitutes. Because visiting friends and relatives is actually part of tourism. And at times when it comes to measuring how big the domestic tourism market is, we tend to get into issues. Also, excursions, going to the beaches and other places of interest on a single day visit are really part of the tourism system. I think what we need to restrict ourselves to in this particular case is leisure, purely leisure tourism, to get a better understanding of how domestic tourism is growing. And it is true, as you noted, that largely the messaging has been crafted for the foreign markets. The local markets were rather neglected, and the mindset was set that to tour really is to loiter around, to tour is to cause insecurity, or it is for those who have a lot of money and are able to move around the country aimlessly. This mindset is part of the strategy to change that we need to seriously inculcate among our local population, that tourism is part of their experiences or life experiences that they need to undertake. And good enough, the emergence of social media has helped to bring media closer to the people. It actually impacts the whole value chain. And I think beyond social media, we should be talking about digitization of tourism, because then we'll be able to interface with issues like booking, with issues like arranging the tour, with issues like accommodation, issues like attraction access. And all these can be impacted. Social media becomes a medium through the digital space to reach out to the valued customer that we have. But when the digital space is fully opened up, we are able to reach out to the customer using all these kind of nodes, checking him out at the point of booking, interesting him to travel, at the point of traveling itself. You've heard of the Ubers, you've heard of the booking engines that help you to book the airline ticket. You've heard of the booking engines that help you to book accommodation. You've heard of the booking engines that can take you around restaurants and so on and so forth. Many youth have actually taken advantage of their knowing the social media space to reach out to the customers. Where has the problem largely been? Many of the products are not digitized. If you want to go to various attractions all over the country, especially in the rural areas, you may find that the owners cannot connect simply because they are not digitized. Therefore, even if you're to use the social media space, you may not discover them or even interact with them. Of course, the infrastructure issue is a big issue. In some of the key attraction areas, it's still on and off or inaccessible, so to speak. I want also to point out the transactions within the within the digital space. Many of the websites that we do have are static pages. You cannot transact on that page. You cannot interrelate with the supplier, and that causes a bit of problems. I want to end the discussion or response to that matter by pointing out some of the issues which we need to focus on. Of course, e-transactions are quite expensive, and we need to support that process either through government, but also the growth of the technology available to see that more people join the space, the social media space, and regulate the space. We need to package better the stories of the country and also the quality photos that entice people to come and visit the destinations and the whole entire promotional tools available to us in order to reach out to the market. There are quite a number of times when you visit a site or you are interested in a package, but when you look at the photos, when you look at the storyline, it is not professionally done. So the traditional work that needs to be done in as far as promotion and marketing is concerned can only be amplified by the social space, but needs to be done in order for us to reach out to the market. And that calls for capacity building, retooling our people to reach out to the market most appropriately. And of course, product diversity is very critical. Many people think the problem is only knowledge. No, the problem goes beyond knowledge. We need to have more products that entice, especially the domestic market. Probably they are not very much enticed by the wildlife because they live among the wildlife anyway. Culture is part of the game. Water attractions are part of the game. So broadening our product diversity is part of the strategy of broadening domestic tourism. I think I should stop there for now and allow more input. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liazi. And you know, it's very interesting, the conversation still around diversifying product, the conversation around increasing access to technology, but it all comes down to one thing. We need to rethink our local customer and see how best to make products relevant to them. Our next feedback panelist is Dr. Deus Muhezi. Incidentally, Deus and I are in the same room and sharing the same podium. So I will invite him to come on as soon as I can get past this little challenge here. Okay. Just a minute. I'd like to invite Dr. Muhezi come and take over this.
Thank you, my dear son, and I'm very proud of you for this presentation. I taught the main presenter at undergraduate, and I feel proud that he's progressing in research, and also the other presenter who presented on mindset for your very interesting presentation. For me, and from the background I am from, as a lecturer in the tourism field, and specifically in the area of marketing, services marketing, my area of interest in this topic is creating the kind of pull factors that resonate with the kind of tourists we are talking about, the domestic tourists. And I have always given an example, a small example of Italy. This is a country where wherever you go, you find a difference. and there's something that pulls you to the next city, to the next place as a domestic tourist or even an international tourist. So my main areas of thinking in this area of study of destination marketing is cognitive evaluation of destinations and affective evaluation of destinations. Cognitive evaluation of destinations, more concerned with the process of knowing, for example, the process of perceiving, the process of judgment, and the process that basically surrounds the mental position of a tourist. And later I'll be talking about a domestic tourist. So what is the mental process? What is the reasoning, the perception of a domestic tourist? Because the study shows that we are not without enough products as a country. But how come our domestic tourists do not patronize them? We need to know more about how they reason, how they perceive these products, and their mental process in totality. So that's the area of cognitive evaluation. And to me, it is very critical in understanding domestic tourists as it is in understanding international tourists. The other area is affective evaluation. And this is a process basically of feeling. This is about feeling and basically emotional states of tourists. For example, when they patronize a place, when they patronize a product, how do they feel? And how, for example, what are their attitudes? What are their moods? Over the weekend, I was in Mbarara, for example, and usually I stay on Bananuka Drive, some of those small hotels there. And I keep asking myself, what could be the most important success factors of this particular destination? And they're always very basic. The core product. How do I feel about the core product? And the core product, let's say I was just there for a night and I wanted to enjoy the city. Let's say the city overall is my attraction. How do I feel about this core product? How do I feel about the accommodation? So I am talking about the experience of a tourist and specifically from my own bias, accommodation, for example. How do I feel? What is the consistency of these products? Very key in terms of accommodation and service. The customer service itself, recognition of the customer. Let's say, for example, a place where I stay. When I arrived over the weekend, I would have loved this hotel to know that I am their frequent customer, but never. And so this finally affects my affective evaluation of this destination. Hygiene and quality, very key and critical. And many times these are ignored, and we concentrate on the trends and on marketing as the concept goes, and putting out our products and talking about them and trying to attract customers. But we never look at these very key success factors that underpin marketing of services, and particularly the tourism products and services. Location and access. how easy is it to locate? What is your location? How easy is it to access? And before we go into marketing, whatever it is, whether social media marketing, all these should be in order for us to enter these affective and cognitive evaluations of our prospective tourists. And pricing is very key. For example, a good room that you can find outside is really, because even a budget room abroad is really hygienic, it's good, and the price is also affordable. But here a similar room could go for a very high price. And then strategic control. So to me, to be able to successfully market, whether it's social media, and to tap into the domestic market, we must enter their cognitive and affective state of mind. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mwezi. As mentioned, this is a very interesting Zoom panel where we actually get to share a podium and have a conversation like this. We shall have one more question for Dr. Mwezi before he leaves, but it's very interesting what he just said. You know, many times we consider the push of the product, how we get it out there, but forget many of the key success factors that will ensure the success of a product. And just to mention, he said something about elements that build customer confidence, like what's happening now, especially with COVID. I must commend what the work UTB is doing around addressing knowledge or understanding of SOPs across the country. This has been going on for the last couple of days. We've seen the feedback on social media, and I think it's great when people see, you know, tourists going to places. They see the district bodies caring more about entrenching knowledge about SOPs and how to stay safe. It drives more confidence, and with more confidence, we should ideally see, and I'm sure the researchers here will be able to prove whether this is correct. The hypothesis around, you know, does customer confidence drive, you know, more customers purchasing tourism products? I believe it does. On that note, I'd like to invite our next panelist, Mr. Amos Wekesa. And then we will go to Claire last, because I'm sure Claire has so many good things to tell us about as well with what UTB is doing. But Mr. Wekesa, if you can share any feedback on the two presentations, what you thought about them, what you thought about what Mr. Mutebi shared on domestic tourism, and the use of social media around that, and also the conversation around mindsets. So if you're on the call, Mr. Wekesa, please share your video and we will quickly unmute. Just a minute. That's it. Mr. Wekesa, if you can quickly and please unmute your microphone and go on and share if you're on the call.
Okay, thank you so much, moderator and the rest of the team, and for the researchers. Thank you for the good job done. I personally think that this kind of research must go on, and research is very important in as far as the development of a country, development of a sector is concerned. It's something that we don't take seriously, and I know that Makerere University and MUBS have done some bit of research before. The most unfortunate bit for research in Uganda is that it normally ends up somewhere in shelves and is not shared. The value of research is to empower people with knowledge. And how do you empower people with knowledge? I think that Makerere University and MUBS, I think are the only institutions that I've personally seen that have done a lot of some research on tourism. Of course, outside the institutions like World Bank and so on and so forth. The challenge is that, like I said, the research papers are not well distributed. And I still, on many occasions, quote a research done by Makerere University Business School, which was talking about how they discovered that every tourist that comes to Uganda underspends by 60%. That means if they came with $1,000, they would go home with $600 unspent, and the factors that led to that, how we are very poor at positioning our products. Yeah, but I think for me, I think that this research must be well disputed. We can help in doing that using the different forums that we have. It is important that you have also clearly said Uganda does not necessarily doesn't lack attractions. We have more attractions than we have been able to market. In my opinion, I think Uganda's tourism has not been utilized, or Uganda's tourism attractions have not been utilized 5%. If you look at the potential, maybe 5% of the protected areas, especially national parks. But even when you come to national parks and game reserves, out of 10 national parks and 12 game reserves, you probably have about 6 national parks and that are working, and maybe 1 or 2 game reserves that have resemblance of numbers. Now, as a person, I still think that tourism knowledge is extremely very scarce in the general population. And that also is explained by, one, the number and the quality of people in operations in tourism. How many competent people have actually joined tourism? How many very educated people have actually joined tourism to practice it? These are the questions you'd be asking. And if we don't have enough, where is the problem? Why aren't we seeing people that own the bigger hotels in Kampala getting to understand that those hotels are actually part of hospitality and tourism? A lot of the hotel owners in Kampala who are wealthy, quite a number of them, those hotels are just a part-time business. Others don't think that their accommodations or hotels, even within Kampala, belong under tourism. So they don't give in a lot of their time in order to make sure that the industry grows. Now, a tourism industry does not, or any business does not grow out of emotions. Any country that is successful, or any city that is successful in tourism, is boosted by their biggest investors in the industry. I know many of you have heard about the I Love New York campaign. I Love New York campaign is responsible for the $49 billion that are earned by New York every single year. But I Love New York campaign is monitored and enforced by people that own restaurants, hotels in New York. The major guys, if you don't market New York, if you are a person working with I Love New York campaign, they just throw you out. They don't joke around with their business. Now, for Uganda's case, the people of those equivalent have not put in a lot of efforts in trying to make sure that we actually push this destination. As I know that my good friend Dr. Dale says that marketing is coming before improving the product. The truth is that Uganda's tourism, having not started yet, and I can tell you, all our 10 national parks and 12 game reserves combined, you have less than 2,000 beds inside each of all of them combined. And you know, if you compare to just a simple national park like Masai Mara, you have close to 5,000 rooms. That is so many times much more than all our 10 national parks and game reserves combined. So I still believe that investment follows opportunities, and that investment following opportunities will only come if we do very aggressive marketing. And I think that the other thing that I would also probably love to add is clearly segmenting the country general, because Uganda is one of those very few countries in the world where products are well distributed across board. You know, you go to the northeast Uganda, where you have the Karamoja sub-region, all the way from Mount Elgon, Pianupi, Matheniko, Pokora, Kidepo, Mount Kadama, Mount Moroto, you know, and then you go to the west, you go to West Nile with a lot of attractions, the central. We need to take this seriously, of course, as a people. I'm not sure that I would add too much. I think for us, if the students are listening, one of the key things that I've seen, even among players, is relative lack of knowledge among players themselves. A lot of Ugandans, business practitioners, don't actually have knowledge about the tourism attractions itself, or let alone, and that also, of course, trickles down to the Uganda Tourism Board, for example, or the Ministry of Tourism. it will be very difficult for Liaz to tell me that he has climbed Mount Elgon. He cannot tell me he has climbed the Rwenzoris. Probably Claire will also not tell me the same. So it's not very easy for you to sell something you don't understand, or you'll find a tour operator who has never climbed the Rwenzoris. So these factors combined can be a problem. So we need to make sure that there are particular efforts for us, the private sector plus the public sector, engaging in understanding and having the right knowledge, because then you can market the country or position it better. But also universities, we need to be interacting more with private sector to see why and know why people are getting people from India, South Africa, and Kenya to work at a higher level, and yet you're training students. Where is the gap? That gap must be filled in order to actually fulfill what Dr. Deus talked about. How could you get good service? In Kenya, when you go there, even in Naivasha, you'll be fine in a hotel of $20. I've slept in Naivasha in a hotel of $20. The service is much better because the common person understands the game. Well, I could talk until cows come home, but I thank you guys for putting this together.
Great. Amos, we shall have one more question for you before the end of the session. Quickly moving along, I'd like to invite kindly, let's mute your microphone, Amos. Great. So moving along quickly, we would like to invite Claire Mugabe from Uganda Tourism Board. I think it's very interesting, of course, before that, what Amos shared around, of course, the focus on marketing and what needs to be done to be able to increase these numbers, but also how academia and business should work together. And the other group that we miss a lot is the government. It should be academia, business, and government for us to see any success. Quickly, again, thank you for all the good work that's happening with UTB. I think we see a much more involved tourism board and so much more work happening with yourself and the team at UTB. We'd like to hear your feedback on the two presentations, one around social media and domestic tourism, and the other around the mindset conversation. Please, Claire.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you for inviting me to this great discussion. My comment is mainly, yes, in the two areas around the mindset change and social media. Yes, I would want to agree with the presenters that research is very important if we are to make informed destination marketing management decisions. Without proper research findings, it is impossible to make the right decisions. When it comes to social media, it is true that actually right now, this is the time for us to digitalize our entire destination marketing management mix. Starting from our product offering to the promotion that we are using, to the processes of, how does someone book or access information about our destination? How does someone book to partake in a tourism experience? How does someone pay for that experience? So it is high time that we took advantage not just of social media, but of the digital and technological advancement generally worldwide. It is very true that domestic tourism has become the drive to market in the face of the pandemic, but I feel that just like the discussants are highlighting, we've not really wrapped our minds around how we are going to make domestic tourism work as the sustenance strategy for driving the recovery of our industry. There is quite a lot of concern because everyone, like Professor I think mentioned, that many people think that the problem facing the uptake of domestic tourism is marketing, but marketing is actually, promotion is just an enabler. It is a support function. We need to look at all the other facets and what we call holistic destination marketing management. We need to start by assessing the 5 A's of tourism, which include the attractions. It is very important that if you promote domestic tourism, we conduct proper market research, and that is where the academia comes in to support the tourism board. We need to understand what are the tastes and preferences of a domestic traveler. I find that many times we assume that we have so many products, so we adopt a sales-led strategy which means that you just get whatever you want to sell and then you aggressively market it, thinking that when you make a lot of noise about it, you will interest people in adopting the product, which is actually an ancient way of marketing. We need to become more market oriented. Our products that we are pushing have to be demand driven. And there is no, you can develop demand-driven products if you do not conduct proper market research. We are treating the domestic market as a homogeneous market, but we've not taken the time to understand what are the smaller sub-segments of the domestic market. That is also very important. So that after segmenting the market properly, we further go ahead to conduct research to understand what are the tastes and preferences in terms of tourism product, wants and needs of the domestic travelers. We need to understand the consumer buying behavior of the domestic traveler if we are to develop the right marketing mix and tourism marketing experience for them. We need to understand the consumer buying behavior. We need to understand the decision, consumer buying behavior. I mean, how does a domestic traveler book their trip, or what determines their decision in terms of where they want to go to travel? We also need to undertake research to understand the decision-making unit. You find that many times for example, if you're targeting a family for a visit or experience, who is the right person to target in terms of our communications? Do we target for example, the fathers, the head of the household, because they're the ones who own the money, the financial spend towards the experience? Do we target the mother in the household? Or do you target the children? Because actually research has shown that in the decision-making unit of a family, it is the children who tell their parents that, we've discovered there is this place, why don't we go there? So if your research is not well, curated to get all those findings, you end up making uninformed decisions and therefore misguiding your marketing efforts. So that is very important that we understand. Yes, it is true that we have national parks, but it is not very true that all Ugandans are interested in going in national parks. So it is important that we undertake ample research to identify what Ugandans want and according to the different segments that we have. The other area that we really need to tackle is accessibility. Yes, we have a beautiful country. We may, as the tourism board, put the message out there that please come to Kidepo, come wherever.
I think we lost
come to these places, and people actually do want. So all those things have to be considered.
Claire, I think we've lost you. We lost you, unfortunately. I am going to have to mute you for now.
Accommodation facility, but then also that nature of experience. Awareness is also very important.
Sorry, Claire. We lost you, unfortunately. Your connection is really bad. Seems to be breaking. Please continue. It's clear now.
Thanks. Sorry about that. I am not so sure the point at which you lost me, so I don't know whether I should.
I think it was the. Unfortunately, we've lost you again, Claire.
Just go ahead, or have to recap a few of the things I already talked about.
I think you were the last.
The other thing I wanted to talk about.
The last aim, but then we seem to be losing you again and again. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop you there. I'll invite you and ask you one question around what you just mentioned before the end of the session. So please allow me to mute you now. And
thank you. Can I say just one more thing before muting me, if that's okay? The connection.
You have 1 minute.
Yes, there is this narrative that, every time people keep telling me, Claire, Tourism Board and the ministry, you people cannot sell what you don't know. Team, I really want to use this platform to demystify this narrative. It is not true that I cannot sell what I don't know, because actually I am not the target audience or the target customer for the products that we are selling. I do not have to climb Mount Rwenzori in order to sell it. My job is to identify what is the target audience for mountaineering. What are the key source markets where we should be positioning and selling mountaineering as a product? Then we work with the researchers to improve the experience around Mountain Rwenzori so that it meets the expectations of the targeted traveler. So it's not really about me going and I climb the mountain, or, it is very important that we understand and make our product competitive in line with the expectations of the targeted, visitor. So I thought I would clear that. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Claire. That's a very interesting conversation about should you have experienced a product that you're able to sell, or is research enough to make you proficient to be able to sell it? It would be interesting to discuss that a bit later. However, before we do that, I'd like to invite our last panelist to make a quick statement before we go through a few very quick questions. We began a few minutes later, so we shall finish at about 3:45 or 3:50. I hope that's okay with you. I'd like to invite Jackie Namara. And what's interesting about this, Jackie, is that you've had people in the tourism space from the private sector perspective speak about social media marketing. You've had the government and the tourism promotion body speak about social media. We'd like to hear what you, hi Jackie, we'd like to hear, sorry, kindly keep your microphones muted. Yeah, we'd like to hear what you as an actual social marketing professional have to share about the two presentations, understanding of mindset, and what you think and how much you feel that this research can help the sector. Jackie, if you are on the call.
Yes, thank you very much. I really enjoyed the contributions made by all the panelists and the two research presentations. And it's a bit difficult coming after everybody else because they've kind of said it all. But I think what is important is that we've clearly highlighted the need for ongoing research in order to inform the decision-making that goes into coming up with products for our tourism sector, whether it's domestic or international, and providing those insights, because the changes that happen in the environment, as we can see evidenced by this year, but also the changing tastes for customers in terms of what they require, means that if we are not doing this research, then we are not keeping up and being relevant to provide the right products at the right time in the right spaces. And it's quite fascinating, the mindset research, because I think that's an angle that hasn't been considered before, but which we see played out in terms of the range of products that are available based on whether you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and how that influences how adventurous you're going to be in your choices for the kind of packages that you will go after. In terms of social media and how it impacts domestic tourism, I think there's no doubt that social media plays a very important role in promoting tourism in general, whether it's domestic or international. I think the challenge that we've got at the moment is that while social media comes at the tail end of the process in helping to build awareness and drive engagement with the various communities, we need to also, at the back of that, see that social media is not seen as the silver bullet that will address all the problems or the issues and challenges faced by the sector, but it serves to complement all the other efforts that go into putting together an attractive and relevant tourism offer, whether it's for our local tourists or international tourists. So from where I stand, I think what maybe we need to do now is see how do we manage customers through their journey using social media channels. So how do we get customers to know about what we have on offer in Uganda, what packages are available, where are they available, why should they go there, what's of interest for them to find, how do we engage them to get them onto the next step, because ultimately we want to get them to buy and take on these packages and tell everybody about it. So I think maybe what we need to see more of from a social media marketing perspective is just the management of the messages and the content through those different stages, from awareness to engagement to converting that awareness into sales, and then to promote continuous purchase and use of our tourism packages, and ultimately to build brand advocates for our different destinations. And there's a whole range of things that we see happening now in the social media space. Most of the speakers panelists have talked about the need for us to have some information, I would say maybe hubs. So where, if I am a tour operator, where can I go to get information about all the destinations and all the things that are available in Uganda, particularly for a domestic tourist, or if I'm just a tourist who is interested in booking a holiday for myself or for any other my family, where can I go to get access to this information? So since Claire has talked about the digitalization process, it would be really fantastic for us to see some sort of curated hub that has content that is both generated by government institutions, research coming out of users themselves. I've been seeing some really interesting videos from a group of photojournalists who've been doing a round of tours across the country. We are all familiar with, I think it's Chamtetera and Muhereza and Herbert Opio and the excursions they've been doing across the country. And we also see some activity coming out of the PAL guide. So there is some content available. I think what we would love to see is some sort of coherence around a central theme. We've seen this work for different countries. The UK has used Visit Britain quite successfully, I think, for maybe about 4 or 5 years, and it has been able to drive significant business. I think they claim leading up to just over 730 million pounds over the 4-year period since it was introduced. And there are other examples across the world, in Australia, where we've seen domestic tourism drives primarily driven through social media, which have then delivered results. If we are working in a space where we have a collaborative approach and we are involving all the stakeholders, so that it would be a shame for Claire to go and put all this energy and effort into take on the PAL, and we are seeing all of this, and she's creating the pool only for us to go and be disappointed because maybe the facilities where we want to go are not quite up to speed or up to par with what was promised. And so I think it's not just one thing working alone. Social media marketing is great to amplify the work that is going on the ground, but it needs to be seen as part of a, should I say, 360-degree approach to delivering memorable experiences for domestic travelers, so that if I go and I want to see the gorillas, I want to climb a mountain, or I'm a religious, I want to go to Namugongo and experience the pilgrim, it doesn't matter where my experience is, we just want to see that social media validates and continues to provide that ongoing endorsement for the wonderful attractions that are available to us in Uganda.
Thank you very much, Jackie. I'm going to keep you on. I'm going to be asking one question to each of the panelists before we end this call. And as they say, last will be fast. So very interesting conversation around social media that you just had. According to William's research, 73% of tour operators currently use social media. I mean, when I open my Facebook, it's awash with so many packages to so many places. Unfortunately, and I know that the numbers during the COVID period are not representative, but I think previously, majority of the tourists, also actually according to his research, majority of the local tourists are students and not either the working class or sort of leave the country. What are they not doing right with their social media? Also, is the problem really the way they're doing the marketing, or the problem is with product relevance?
So I think it's a combination. If I really take it simply and we go back to the basics of marketing, if you don't tell me why I should be coming to you, then it doesn't matter how fantastic your advertising campaign is. If I don't connect with the reason that it's important and meaningful and why I must do it, I won't come. So much as we want to use social media to drive all these campaigns and drive awareness, we always say in marketing, a pig with lipstick is still a pig. The product has to work for your intended target audience. So if it is not right for them, then no matter what you do on the promotion side, it will still not be a good experience. So I think if we go back to the basics and just address do you want someone to come to your attraction? What is important? What connects with them at that level? And then the rest of the other elements. Once they arrive, what will they experience? Are your staff ready to handle them? We have now the COVID impact in terms of social distancing and the public health guidelines, and you want people to trust and have a sense of security and safety while they're in your environment. So there is the fundamentals that need to be in place in terms of product pricing and how you've communicated that. But also when you're in the social media spaces, we have to package the communication in such a way that it appeals to our target audience. So have we done online ads, for example, that are actually attractive and appealing? Are we placing them at the right time? Because in social media, timing is important. If you want people to travel at a particular time, if you put your ads out too late, then you won't be able to reap the benefit of investment. Simple things like search engine optimization. So once I've seen your ad, where's the call to action? Where do I go to get more information? And have you automated and digitized the booking and reservation process? Do you have a payment platform where I can pay online through a variety of payment options? Have you done the customer service on the back end so that when people call in with queries or further requests for information, there is someone actually seated at the end of a contact us a telephone number to address all these issues and concerns. And then when I've had this really fantastic experience, make it easy for me to share it with the world. So it's not just one thing. I think it's a combination of things, getting the product mix right, but also how you package it and sell it in online spaces is equally important.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And I do concur with you completely along those particular lines. I think one part, get your product right, get your marketing right. You should be able to see your numbers grow, especially in tourism, because I think it's a very emotional sector. So if I have a great experience, I want to share with somebody else, and somebody else sees a great experience, and you sort of start that cycle that keeps driving more customers in. I'd like to ask Mr. Wekesa a question. Now, a few years ago, I was having lunch with a prominent tour operator, I won't say who, and he mentions to me, this is of course before COVID, of course before any of this, and he mentions to me that I don't care, and I quote, I don't care about the domestic tourist. They don't have enough money to purchase the products that we sell. They complain a lot and don't buy, don't pay as much as the Western tourists. Now, you may not like that statement, but unfortunately it is true, okay? So I'd like to ask you, actually before the question, I've also seen very many of the companies that began to work with domestic tourists were really young people or young companies starting out, starting to find their feet. So I want to ask you, do the experienced tour operators, or does the private sector really do care as much about the domestic traveler? Okay, and if so, what are the drivers that you seem to target, or what are the reasons for travel that you seem to target as a private sector? Amos, are you there?
I think a lot. Yeah. I like what we're talking about here. Yeah. Hello. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you clearly. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. What we need to understand is that a tour operator works on commissions, and commissions come from providing transport and other services along the way. Fuel, getting commissions on park entrance fees. We do about between 10 and 30%. Now, a lot of the Ugandans that can afford to travel within Uganda will be the people that can afford to drive themselves to the national park. And that's something that we need to understand. The truth is that domestic tourism, the more we give confidence to some people, the idea that Ugandan or domestic tourists cannot afford, I don't think is right. If you look at Ugandan statistics, clearly shows you that there's a lot of potential. If you look at Kenya, 2019, you had 223,000 Ugandans that went to Kenyan and Mombasa. And that was, in 2018, they had 204,000. That was the second biggest source market for Kenya's tourism in 2019. After the America had 240,000. You had about 36,000 that went to Dubai to just enjoy the sand and shopping. You had about 31,000 went to South Africa. You had about 12,000 went to Zanzibar. Now, the are able to spend $2,000 averagely in Kenya is because we have not attracted them enough. We have not been persuasive enough. We have not done things that actually can attract them. Now, I have just been doing a campaign the last, during COVID. I realized that when they opened up in July, I said, okay, out of my 6 businesses, I'm going to just target 2 businesses and I'll market them. So I marketed elephant from $600 a night to $200 a night. I reduced our bot experience on MV Kazinga from $40 to about $70,000 for Ugandans. And I can tell you that last month, we were able to make probably from a few rooms over 50 million shillings from Ugandans. And I thought, okay, if we can get 20% of our annual business at Elephant Plains or MV Kazinga, domestically, or even 30%. But we only have a very short gap to do that. We have between now, we had between April last year to probably June next year, because Ugandans are not going anywhere else. They have a bit of money to spend, but it depends on how aggressive we are with these people. But again, it goes back to the social media positioning. How have I been able to use social media to make resources? I've actually sold those 2 places simply using my Facebook page. That means I have something that I understand on how these things work. One, you must have a product, and that product must be a right product, just like the previous speaker was talking about. But at the same time, online, you're like a human being. First, people must like people, you must make people to like you, because then they will associate with you. Then the next stage, even when you're online, you need to make sure that people trust you. People to trust you takes a longer time. Are you having the right product? Can you be able to offer the service? If we weren't offering the service, you'd probably hear people saying, oh, Elephant Plains is crazy, useless, or people say MV Kazinga does not work, is not good. But people are keeping quiet or coming back and saying, man, this is a fantastic experience that we had from your place. That's what I would think. That's what I would submit.
Thank you very much, Amos. And that's very interesting, especially the conversation around omissions. I'd like to take this straight to Claire, of course, because this is very interesting. From the feedback from an active tour agent, Claire, as UTB runs all the social media marketing campaigns and all these conversations that are happening, one, what are you doing, or how are you supporting the role of the travel agent? Because if kindly keep your muted. Great. So how are you supporting that gap? Because the tour agent will get the tourist from Kampala to the national park. Unfortunately, now it's not really available because the commissions are probably very much lower. Okay, great. Sorry. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not as high in terms of commission, so it's not very attractive for most tour operators. And secondly, I'd like to know from your experience, what type of customer are you targeting in the domestic market? What is their mindset? What do they want? What is it that people in tourism can actually package and make relevant to these customers? You have 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
I'm sorry, can you recap the first question? My network was acting up. I only got the second part.
The first question is, just a minute, I need to just take this off. The first question is around what Amos said. Most tour operators, because they work with commissions, they can't make as much facilitating travel for the domestic market, which means that travelers have to get themselves to the accommodation, to the national parks for that particular type of travel. I'd like to know what you're doing to fill that gap where operators are not as enthusiastic about it. And then secondly, around the customer you're targeting. Who is a domestic customer that you're targeting? What is their mindset? And how do you make these 2 things work?
Thanks very much. In regards to the very first question, I think our strategy is actually to build, for starters, customer stakeholder confidence in domestic tourism. Like you said, there is low confidence in domestic tourism. That's why you see very low investment from our private sector.
Very clear.
I think
very clear. The private sector, in terms of the tour operators, like Amos just said, at a commission structure of 10%, it doesn't make a lot of business sense to drive someone from Kampala to the national park, which means they need to get themselves there, okay? Which of course, potentially would see a number of drop-offs. So what are you doing to solve that problem fast? And then secondly, like I said, okay, just answer that first, I'll ask the next one after that.
Yes, that's what I was answering. Domestic tourism really works with the numbers. Yes, the commission is low when it, the quantity per one person, but then you work with the numbers, which is actually, we don't have a chance with the international market. So that is the mindset change that you want to work on around our tour operators, to be specific, so that they understand the semantics around the domestic tourism, how to work the numbers to get more people to go. Yes, the commission is low per traveler, but then when you look at the numbers, especially Ugandans, research has shown that Ugandans want to move in groups. So we need to harness that opportunity and develop group packages so that tour operators are able to earn more commission around the numbers. So domestic tourism really works around numbers because the spend per person is very low. The average spend per domestic traveler is about 100,000 in comparison to about $200 per day spent by the international traveler. So the magic is around the numbers. The more people you're able to take, the more money you earn. Then also there is also maybe a gap in terms of awareness amongst the domestic travelers. That is the other thing we want to address. Many of them are not aware of the distribution channels. Many of them book directly. If someone wants to go and spend some time in Channinga, they are going to go on Google, get the contacts of Channinga, and then book directly. So we want to create more awareness about the pros of booking through a travel agent. I think now that is the element we had not addressed. Many of the international visitors are already aware of that, and that is how they book. So that is why we're saying that it's very important that we understand, guided by research, the consumer behavior of a domestic traveler. So if we address that hurdle and get domestic travelers to actually book the experiences and have their itineraries developed and curated by travel agents, I think that can be addressed, and we are trying to work on it through sensitization. And for mindset change for starters, it is very important that as UTB, we build confidence in the domestic market amongst our private sector, especially the operators, so that they see the value that comes with it through the numbers. Then to answer the part about targeting, like I said, we tend to treat the domestic market as one homogeneous market, but it's very important that as we go forward, we segment the different market segments that we have. For example, we have the corporate, which actually currently we seem to have positioned our domestic tourism offering for that particular niche market, which is the corporate, affluent, maybe financially okay segments. But then when you look at the size of that market, it is very small. And even when you look at the effect and impact of COVID, many of those people have lost their jobs. So it's important that now we go and look at other segments, like the mass markets. We have expatriates, we have the school-going people whom we can target through school outreach. So it is very important that we go and identify those finer segments, and then we curate experiences and targeted marketing mixes and packages for them. Otherwise, right now we come up with a package which we think is okay, and we start pushing it to all the different audiences, which is not okay. So our experience has to be demand-driven. That's what I was talking about in the beginning, so that we have experiences targeting the different finer segments in the domestic market.
I have to stop you right there, Claire. Thank you very much for that. We have quick feedback or quick questions from two last speakers. I'd like to ask Dr. Mwezi very quickly, and then I'll come to you, Vincent, lastly, because you're the government. You should be able to help us, provide a segue towards closing this. In the current, tourism situation, one of the things that keeps coming out as a problem is the capacity of the students that are leaving the university and how employable they are in the tourism space. And Makerere University runs a strong tourism program, as well as I think many of the other universities. I'd like to ask, is the current tourism relevant to the market needs? Because one of the things that keeps coming up is product. Are we seeing students from the university, students who teach, actually coming up to be stronger at product development, stronger at the things you mentioned earlier about the tourism sector? And is the university working in any way with the private sector to make these work better, to make the quality of students that you churn out be more relevant to the sector?
Like I said before, and I will say it again, tourism marketing is about the underpinning, dealing with the underpinning factors for any marketing strategy to succeed. And I have mentioned them, and one of them is the product. And you are right to ask me the question, are the students capable of, you made the questions from here, are the students capable of developing the product? Do they have the knowledge? Maybe if I can add, we work with the private sector to make sure that these students have the capacity to develop products. Like I said, the cognitive and affective evaluation of a tourist is very, very, very important. And this must be inbuilt in any marketing campaign. And to be able to succeed as a domestic tourism destination, let me talk about the whole country being attractive to local travelers, we must develop pull factors. And pull factors are developed at specific destination within the broader national destination. For example, what are our cities doing? What are our small towns doing to develop pull factors, the products that are attractive to a local traveler? And like I said, these products must be very well packaged, very well delivered, and very well priced in order for travelers to be interested, local travelers to be interested. And domestic tourism, by the way, is related to also an emerging middle class in urban settings. And you may realize that as a result of COVID-19, just like any other pandemic, urban poverty will set in, has set in. And the middle class is going to shrink for some time and then come up again. So domestic tourism is related to the middle class. More money you have, excess money to spend, the more you prefer to travel. But are we ready to absorb the desires and interests of, let's say, it grows again, of this emerging middle class? And this is why I talk about the cognitive and affective evaluation of destinations. And for us to be able to tap into the minds, the needs and desires of this very interesting market. And usually we must look at the benefits that they have been getting from wherever they have been going. Amos has been talking about most of our tourists going to Kenya. What are the switching costs, for example? If they switch to, will they get what they were getting in Kenya? Will they get what they have been getting in Dubai? We must think about these things deeply so that we can develop these small destinations, whether they are based on adventure, leisure, visiting friends and family, whatever it is, because accommodation is also involved, because there's a multiplicity of products that we must look at in order for us to be able to not only attract domestic travelers, but also to sustain them. And so, according to me, domestic tourism is about creating pull factors. And if destinations do not work on this, if, for example, Mbarara as a city does not work on its identity and the pull factors that will take David to Mbarara to have a night there either for leisure, to have very good accommodation when he's visiting friends and family, to have all sets of pleasures when they are there that will create an ultimate experience, then the marketing efforts. Remember, marketing, any useful marketing begins with a product. You cannot possibly start talking about a market. You cannot start talking about a product without a market, meaning the market begins first. And then we talk about the product. Yes, Makerere University, this is part of it. We are working hard to make sure that we work with the private sector closely to teach our students or to have our graduates have competence in product development, positioning, and marketing. I thank you.
Great, as mentioned, we are sharing this panel. Mr. Navid, I see your question. We are almost out of time. However, I'll ask Mr. Liazi to quickly answer one question before we give you a quick 1 minute to mention what you'd like to. So, Mr. Liazi, as the government, one of the things that comes up here is the fact that Michael was able to go out and do some research and find some data. And I realized one of the problems that keeps coming up or keeps being mentioned is the challenge around access to relevant or up-to-date sector data. Not just the quantitative numbers, because yes, you can find some of those with UBOS, but more qualitative information that we need to find. I would like to ask you, what is the government doing to solve this data challenge that is currently in the market? And is the government looking at working with academia in any way to solve this problem? Mr. Aliazi, 2 minutes, please, if you're still available.
Thank you so much. You talked about the issue of data, and I entirely agree with you. Without qualitative data, probably you cannot make very informed decisions. We are tackling that issue. One thing you need to realize is that data has to be refreshed on almost a very regular basis, so to speak. And it's quite expensive to accumulate or gather the kind of data or relevant data that we need. A lot of attention is now growing towards the tourism industry, and naturally, the budgets are
Hi, Mr. Aliazi, are you still there? Hello, Mr. Aliazi? Okay, I think we lost Mr. Aliazi, so we will let him go. Hopefully we can always find out more about the data conversation and see what will be possible. Mr. Aliazi, are you back? Okay, so we lost Mr. Aliazi, so we'll leave that. Yes, Mr. Navid, very quickly, over 1 minute, please state what you would like to share. I noticed your hand is up.
Yeah, hi, my name is Naveed Hassan. I am the editor for Holiday Guide magazine and a frequent traveler to Uganda. And last year I did a documentary to highlight Uganda's tourism attractions in the Middle East region. And it got 50,000 views here. And a lot of people contacted me and said, Uganda is so beautiful, we never knew. And, you know, I went to places like Lake Bunyoni, which were like, you know, off the tourist trail, really. And a lot of interest was generated, especially from Dubai, and people called me about the destination. But the feedback I got from our readership was that, you know, the Uganda tourism industry is great. I love it, but the prices are so high. You know, for an average teeny bopper in Dubai, you know, they say that I pay less in New York for a hotel than I would pay in Kampala, or you know, or maybe, you know, by the Lake Victoria. So I think, you know, the powers that be need to focus on two things: is not only the product, but also to keep the pricing competitive, because after all, tourism is a very competitive industry. Number one. And number two, my question to Claire is that, you know, I think Europe and US have been the key target markets for Africa's tourism industry. But now things are changing, and the Middle East is fast emerging as a very popular incoming tourist destination for a lot of African countries. And with good air connectivity with Emirates, Fly Dubai, flying into many African regions, it is time that UTB puts its focus on the Middle East markets. And at least I've been crying out hoarse for the last 4 years that they should have an office in Dubai, at least, to promote Uganda's tourism interests in the Middle East region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I will give Claire 1 minute to answer this, and then we will go back to Dr. Akileng to close this session.
Thank you very much for that question. We've already started, even before the pandemic, we had already started to target very aggressively the UAE market. We've actually set up an office. We have representation there by a destination marketing specialized firm called Avia Reps. So they've been there for a year, and we are actively targeting that market already.
Thank you very much for the quick response, Claire. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you making the time to be a part of this session, and we have been able to spend some time listening to both academia, sharing research, evidence-based information about the tourism sector and a number of findings that they made over their research period. You've heard about mindsets and what that implies for product development. And we've also listened about social media and what it means for domestic tourism. I would like to invite Dr. Kileng to come on and quickly wrap up this session. And thank you all for staying on as long as you were able to. Sorry for this, for the challenges we had earlier on in the session. Dr. Kileng, please do that.
Thank you, David. Thank you, colleagues. I am going to request my colleague, Dr. Triachira, to move a vote of thanks. It is the head of Department of Marketing and Management in the school. But before that, I really want to say, I come from the accounting and finance background, so sometimes I may not be understanding or appreciating some of the things that have been said, but today I am really quite overwhelmed. I thank all the participants. I thank you, special regards to the panelists, and big flowers to David, the moderator, and every other person who has been able to make it. On behalf of the university, we are really grateful. I want to pledge two things. One, as a Dean of the School of Business, to continue engaging with the private sector in as far as research is concerned, and continue to carry on applied research that will inform policy and also for economic growth and development of our country. And then, of course, to continue with our drive to bring students closer to the market, to train with the private sector. Dr. Turiachira, please, could you come on?
Thank you very much, Godfrey, for this pleasure. On behalf of the School of Business, the College of Business and Management Sciences, and Makerere at large, I take this opportunity to thank all of you, the moderators, the participants, the presenters, for this afternoon. We have shared great knowledge, and today we are no longer an island. We take Makerere to the community, and we bring the community to Makerere University, and therefore this kind of dialogue should continue, because we are all important stakeholders in the tourism sector, in the tourism industry. And from the presentation, there is a big paradox in that domestic tourism is generally dominated by students, yet these students have low incomes. They do not have the propensity to spend, yet people who have the money, who have the propensity to spend, have not been targeted, and therefore there is need for the tourism operators to ensure that they harmonize this kind of paradox, so that together we are able to put tourism ahead. Thank you very much again, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One last thing before we leave. Sorry, Dr. Kileng. Somebody mentioned the fact that we were sharing the picture of Makerere University, the Ivory Tower, as our background before, during the session, and yet unfortunately, it went up in flames. I should state that this is still Makerere University, and the Ivory Tower was one of the most iconic buildings, and we believe it will be restored. As such, we still will keep using this as the background for these sessions. So thank you very much. Dr. Kileng, please finish it off.
Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. We commit and thank you very much. I've already seen contacts coming through from Jackie, from Navad, from everyone. We shall follow you through and make sure that we continue with this dialogue and relationships. Thank you very much.
Thank you.